Hi there, welcome back. This is Manu here. We were talking about comparing people, places, things, ideas, etc. with respect to our neighborhood. Why our neighborhood? Because it's easier for us to understand the concept. We are there, right? The neighborhood is there right around us. So we can easily see whatever we are learning now outside, and that'll keep getting reinforced every time we go out and see things. Today we're going to look at the one that is right on top or right at the bottom. So it's like this. We have a group of people, places, things, ideas, or whatever that we are going to compare. And we are saying that one in that group has more of a particular quality than the rest, or less of a particular quality than the rest. So it's at the top or at the bottom. We use the superlatives for that. Therefore, in this video, we're going to look at 4 things. What is superlative? How do we say it? Some special points and a practical example of using superlatives. So what is superlative? When you describe something that you support or promote, for instance, and you say that has got a certain set of qualities, or say a particular quality that is there right on top compared to the others, the other items of the same family. This particular item has got a quality that is right on top, more than what the others have. Then you use the superlative. So you use these superlatives to describe the describing words, the adjectives or adverbs, as the case may be. And you use this only when you compare 3 or more people, places, things, etc. Not less than 3. So one example could be, she is the most brilliant student in the class. So in the class you have lots of students. They're all brilliant, but she has more brilliance, so she's right on top. She's the most brilliant student in the class. Your proposal is the least acceptable. That means there are lots of proposals. They are acceptable in varying degrees, but yours is right at the bottom of the pile. So we say it's the least acceptable. Now there are certain rules that we have to follow, and we'll look at them in brief today. First, note I said she is the most brilliant student in the class. Why did I say the most brilliant student? Because lots of students and she's right on top, the most brilliant. There's only one of them and I'm saying she. And there's only one, so I say the most brilliant student. So when you use the superlatives, the top or the bottom, you always use the. You can't say she's most brilliant. She's the most brilliant student in class. Now generally, how do we tell the superlatives? If you have just one syllable in the word, we simply add est to it to talk about the superlative. Like you add an er to talk about the comparative, you add est to talk about the superlative. So tall, tallest, est with tall, tallest, strongest, weakest, shortest, etc. Now if you have more than one syllable, that is 2 or more, then normally you can't add an est. For instance, you can't say that is the experimentedest concept. No, it makes no sense. So you'll have to add the word most before that adverb or adjective. So we say that's the most experimented project or concept. Note again, the. So we can say things like the most beautiful, the most experimented, the most tiresome, the most idiotic, etc., etc. Notice they have more than one syllable. Now, there is an exception. You may have more than one syllable in certain cases, and you still don't use most. You simply add an est. Some examples are handsome, not the most handsome, you simply say handsomest. Stupidest, simplest, politest, noblest. That's the noblest action I've seen. She's the politest person that I've met in this village. That's the stupidest idea I've ever heard. He's the handsomest actor in the movie industry, for instance. Now, that is talking about the top over there. If you go to the bottom, we use the word least, the least. So we say things like, he's the least worried about the exams. This is environmentally the least harmful of all things. Machines that work least efficiently have been disposed of. He was the least expected to get the promotion. Lots of people expected to get the promotion, but this guy was at the bottom of the list, so we say he was the least expected to get the promotion. The other chap was right at the top. He was the most expected to get the promotion. Now let's look at some spellings here. Why do we need to know about spellings? Spelling rules. Because, for one thing, that will help you get the pronunciation right. Very important. And the other one is, eventually we have to write. And when we speak, we have the spelling in our mind. That's natural, but we have to get it. So as we speak, we have the spellings also in mind, and that remains in the mind. It gets etched, becomes permanent. So when you write, that is reflected in your writing. So let's look at some of the rules. Normally you add, like I said, est or the most or the least. So tall, tallest, strong, strongest. Simply add an est to strong and you get it. But if the word ends in e, for instance, nice, you don't add an est to nice. That becomes nice plus est, nicest. No, you simply add st to it. So you have nicest, largest, whitest, etc. Add an st. Now if it ends in y, then what you do is two things. You remove the y and put an I in its place, and then add an est. So chatty, chattiest, naughty, naughtiest, murky, murkiest. Remove the y, put an I, and add an est. Now, if the word has a last letter which is a consonant, before that you have a vowel, then you repeat that consonant. You double that consonant. For instance, big, B-I-G. G is a consonant. Just before the consonant is a vowel, I. So the superlative will be B-I-G-G-E-S-T. So you repeat, double that consonant. B-I-G-G, and then you add an est to it. Same principle as we found in the comparatives. Fat, fattest. Now, we have something called the irregular verbs. They don't fall into any of these groups. They don't fit into these rules, therefore they are irregular. So some examples of these irregular verbs would be adverbs rather, or adjectives, would be good, best, not goodest. Well, best, not wellest. Far, farthest, or furthest, depending upon what you mean. we found the difference of this one. In one of the earlier videos, we discussed the difference between farther and further. The far could be farther, farthest, or further, furthest. Less, least, bad, worst. These are some of the irregular verbs, not a lot of them though. Don't really get flustered. We've got the most commonly used words. Otherwise, rest follow the other principles that we've just laid down. Now let's look at some points, special points. So, one is, you don't repeat, you don't use double superlatives. For instance, you don't say, Jaguar is the most fastest car. The most and fastest? Not possible. Kaboom is the least coolest joint in town. Least and coolest? You can simply say, Jaguar is the fastest car. Not most. Kaboom is the least cool joint in town. Least cool. You don't say least and coolest. Cool remains cool. You simply say least cool. So with negative, when you add least, you use the base form of that word and simply add a least before it. The other thing is, you use the superlatives and you have more than two, that is 3 or more members in that particular family that you're talking about. So, for instance, you can't say, she is the funniest of the two. The funniest of the two, just two, then you don't say funniest, you say the funnier of the two. Here again, don't forget, we use the funnier. Why the? Funny, more funny. So we say, she's the only person, so she's one, the funnier, because there are just two. But if you take one person in the whole class, for instance, Rama is more intelligent of the 10 students. Yeah. Rama is the most intelligent of all the students. All the students. So I have more than two, obviously. So the most, the superlative form. But you can say the students of Ispat school were the smarter of the two finalists. Students of Ispat school, there were lots of students of Ispat school. They were smarter because there were only two finalists. This is one group, that's the other group. So we are comparing groups. Although each group has more than two members, there are only two groups and we are comparing the groups. So we say the students were smarter of the two groups. Now you can also have situations where the adjective or adverb is perfect, that right at the top already, and they can't be graded. So you can't say most or more, etc. For instance, we can't say that was the deadest rat in the hole. If the rat is dead, it's dead, right? You can't have another rat that is deader than this rat. Doesn't exist. Let's look at a few words that can't be graded. Dead, single, universal, spontaneous, instantaneous, blind, deaf, final, right, unique, correct, wrong, vertical, etc. So, for instance, you can't say that she is the most single lady in town. Not the most single lady. Can you have a singular lady? Oh, she's single, that's it, finished. Not going to Goa was the most instantaneous decision I've ever taken. Most instantaneous? Instantaneous itself means like that. So can you have something more than that or less than that? This is instantaneous, that's it. You can't grade it. Now let's look at a practical application of all these rules that we have learned so far about superlatives. I'm going to read a paragraph and you can see how they work. Hi, my name's Ravi. I'm 16 years old and the youngest in my family. I have 2 brothers and 2 sisters. Jay is the oldest among us. He is 26 years old. My sister Richa is the smartest girl. Her friends also say she is the kindest, friendliest, and the most beautiful girl in her class. Seema is older than Richa. She is the tallest and the fattest girl in her class. She is also the best Sudoku player in town. And personally, she's the nicest sister that I've ever had. I play cricket and I'm the fastest bowler in my team. Vineet, my brother, is the handsomest boy and the most energetic person in the entire colony. He's also the most talented person in our family. He plays the guitar and is the state tennis champion. He's got a lot of girlfriends too. My father is in the police department. He is the most decorated officer in his team. And he's also probably the most generous and the most honest person in the whole town. Our mother. Now, she is the kindest and the gentlest person in the whole world. And then our dog, Lucky. Lucky is very intelligent and very funny. In fact, he is the most intelligent and the funniest dog in town. He can get the newspaper from the porch in less than 5 seconds. I'm proud of my family. And who wouldn't be with a family like this? So that was a passage. You see how we used the rules that we've just learnt? Look at the spellings also. And we'll catch you in the next video. Meanwhile, use these chunks that you've just learned, the rules that you've just learned. Watch all the 4 videos till you get the concept of comparisons right. We'll see you in the next video. Until then, bye-bye. Thank you for watching this video, liking it and subscribing to our channel. We'll see you in the next video. Until then.